So we're almost done with this project. It's time to put some of this stuff on sheets so that we can print it to PDF. So we already have some sheets set up. Let's take a look at what we have. We have a starting view, which is not for printing, but we have an electrical cover sheet. Let's double click that. So it's just a blank sheet, but it has in here the name of the owner, ER Properties, a 3-bedroom home, electrical cover sheet, project number. This is the stuff that we brought in from the architectural project info when we brought that in. So it shows up here automatically. Now the date we can change here, and we can change the author and the checker here. Those are just labels that we can change. But what we would do is we would just drag our views onto this sheet. Now, what do we can put on a cover sheet? Well, typically on a cover sheet, I would put something like the electrical symbol list. Well, we don't have that yet. How do we get a symbol list? Well, we have to create one. And when you do create one, you may save it as a generic symbol list and put it in your project template to use it on future projects. But since this is our first project, we have to create one. Well, we could just start drafting on this sheet, but best practice for me is to actually create a detail view or a legend view that has that information that I can drag into the sheet. So how would we do that? Well, we can create that drafting view like we did for the one-line diagram, but we can also create what's called a legend, which is a different kind of drafting view that can be placed on multiple sheets. A trick about drafting views, you can only drag it onto one sheet. Same with plan views, I can only put it on one sheet. So if you want something on multiple sheets, some people like a legend on multiple sheets. So we're just going to create a legend. So we can right click and just say new legend, or we can go up to view and go to legends right here and just do a standard legend. And we will call this electrical symbol list, or just symbols. What scale? Yeah, it's usually just 1:1. It's like our one line, it's just a blank sheet. Now, what symbols can I use? Unfortunately, I can't just drag light fixtures on here and junction boxes to use those. See, it's trying to drag on a box. So we just have to actually just draw the symbols. So to get a scale set up, I'm going to use some text first. Let's just say surface light fixture. And then what's the symbol for that? Well, here we are in drafting mode. We're just going to start annotating and drawing drafting mode. Surface light fixture is like a circle. And then we can copy this down. You can get exact on your copy or just kind of use some of these guidelines to help you. And we can say recessed light fixture. And what happens if we drag in a recessed light fixture? Look at that. It's huge. So it's trying to drag in the actual geometry. So we have to actually draw another symbol. Now you can create families that are just symbols that you can use for this. If you're only using them in your symbol list, it's really not worth creating a family just for that. So what we'll do is I'll copy this down and draw. Again, I'm just doing annotate. So you'll go through and just start drafting all of your symbols. Now I'm going to do this and do a 45-degree line and then extend it. And let's make sure that that matches our light fixture. So we want to do this for each of our light fixtures and for each of our receptacles and the junction box. And then you'll want to put in some abbreviations. You may say something like above finished floor is your AFF, and then get that over here. You may want to put GFCI, any of your abbreviations. So you'll want to create a symbol list that has all of your symbols. And you can put a heading on this, call this electrical symbols. And let's make that larger to pop. You can draw a box around it. You can get fancy if you want, do whatever you want to make this look like that. And I'm just doing an abbreviated one for instruction purposes. You can actually copy that one line down, something like that. And I didn't go far enough because of my opaque. There we go. You can make this twice as wide with a double row of symbols, but that's the idea. So I just want to give you an idea for that. So now we go back to our cover sheet. Let's go find that legend. It'll be up here under legends now. Expand that out. And I can take this symbol list, and the way I put it on a sheet is I just drag it in. Pull it over, drag it in. Electrical symbols. Now, it comes in with a title for that view. So you can click on this and move this all around. If you want to just move the title, You can click on it and move it by itself. But if you want to extend it left and right, you have to click on this. So it's a little tricky on how you control this thing. And then if you don't want this title, you can go up here. We have to create a separate type for that. And let's call this a duplicate viewport. Let's say no title. And show title, you can change it to no. And that gets rid of it. So now you have two different viewport types. Now let's say in this project, we're going to put our panel schedule and our one-line diagram also on this cover sheet. We don't need a separate sheet for that. So let's go drag those on as well. Let's drag our one-line diagram on. Where's that? Up here. Just hold it down, drag it, let go, and now I can put it here. It's very small. And this one, I do want a title. Now, I don't need a scale. To get rid of the scale is a little more involved, and we would have to do some family editing of this view title, so I'm going to leave it on for now. And then I want to get the panel schedule on this sheet. So where's the panel schedule? Down here. Let's drag it on, let go. There it is. And we'll put that right here. And there's our panel schedule. But that's the basics of getting those onto your sheet. You can also change this title block. If you have a custom title block, you click on it, you have a drop down, and you can select different title blocks. They're just another family, like a receptacle. You can bring in title blocks from your architect. You can create your own. That's more advanced, but that is a possibility. Now we want to create some more sheets. So we can right-click this and say duplicate sheet. We don't need the detailing of the sheet. We just want to start with an empty sheet. Well, at least we'll have a title block. And we're going to call this E101, and that's going to be our site plan. Electrical. Let's go find our site plan and drag that on. So where is that? It's under Power, Site Plan. Drag it, let go, and it fits on the sheet. If for some reason it's too large or even too small, we may want to change the scale. But in this case, it looks like it will fit nicely. So we'll put it centered. There's our site plan. Now, automatically in the title, it comes up with the same name as the view. So you get that 10 site plan. Maybe I don't want that 10 to show up in the actual sheet. So I can click on this either way, and I can go down now. View name, I have a separate line for title on sheet. So I can type in site plan electrical, or sometimes what I'll do is I'll try to just select the name I want. I can't right click copy, but I can Control C copy, put it down here, Control V paste if you want it that way, or you can just type it in and apply. And see how that changes? It got rid of the 10. And the scale is what we want. And it will automatically number these details as you put them on. Now you can change the detail number up here under graphics. You click on your view. Up under graphics, you can go up to detail number and change it to 2, 3, 4, whatever you want. If you have multiple views on here, you can renumber them. Also on a floor plan or site plan view, I like to have a north arrow. So how are we going to do that? Well, in this sheet view, we can add a north arrow. So down here under annotations, out of the box Revit comes with a north arrow that we can use. So down here under N is north arrow 2. Drag that in, and you can see it's just a simple north arrow symbol. So you can put that down here. And for a site plan, I like to say true north. On my floor plan, I'll just say north or project north. So let's add yet another sheet. Right click, duplicate sheet, empty sheet, and we're going to call this one, let's go with the 200 series, 201, floor plan, lighting. I don't even need to say first floor plan, there's only one floor. Floor plan lighting, and we're going to drag in our lighting plan. So drag that in. And there it is. Put it right there. And the same thing. We want to get rid of this 11. We may want to change it instead of first floor just to say floor plan. So click on there. and we can just type it in. Floor plan, lighting, and it's kind of repeating what the sheet name is, but sometimes you'll have multiple plans on a sheet, and that will make more sense. And then we want that north arrow here. I can go find it again, or I can just actually copy it from the site plan. So let me go down to the site plan, and I'm going to click it and then hold Control and click True North. So I have this selected. Now I can do a Control C, copy, or I can go up here and say copy to clipboard, not the regular copy, but the clipboard copy. If I want to copy between sheets, I need to do the clipboard copy. Go to my floor plan lighting, and now I want to paste it here. Now I could Control V paste, or if I'm in the modify menu, I can go to this paste drop down. I can just say paste from clipboard, or I can be more selective and say align to the current view. That will put it in the exact same spot on this sheet right there. That will also help me maybe line up my floor plan. Maybe I want to drop it down a little bit. And then here I can say Project North for this lighting plan. And then I want to set up a power plan similarly. Duplicate sheet, empty, rename it F2. I want E301 for a power plan. This is the power. And let's pull the first floor power into here and line it up. Now I already have that north arrow copied. Let's just paste it again into this current view. If I know I want it on a bunch of sheets, I could even say align to selected view and then pick all of these sheets. But I'm going to do it individually. Align to current view. And take this, move it left a little, move it down a little bit to help line it up. So there are all of our sheets set up. Now we just have a few final touches to finish up this project. So stick around here till the end. We're almost there. One thing I'd mentioned earlier is that sometimes you'll want to have some kind of notes on your sheets. And they could be general notes, or they could be what are called keyed notes, where there's a note tag that refers to specific numbers or even symbols. So in this case, I want to add some notes to my power plan that I have on this sheet. Now, again, we could just start typing on this sheet for notes, but a better practice is to actually create a drafting view or a legend view with those notes that we drag on. It also lets you drag those notes onto multiple sheets and only have to change them in one place if that becomes an issue. So again, I will create another legend, but this time it will be for notes. So right click, new legend. This one's going to be called Notes Power Plan. So I have an identifier. Here we are in the Notes Power Plan view. I'm going to start just typing some notes, and I'll say something like 1. Now, some people have symbols like a hex or a circle or an oval or something that they can use. Again, out of the box, we don't really have that. So we'll just use the tried and true Note 1 method, which I'll show you. But Note 1 is going to be all receptacles in garage to be at plus 48 inches above finished floor. So maybe there's only one note for an example. And then we'll say here, power plan notes. And these are keyed notes because they're keyed to numbers. So let's change that to 1/4 inch. And maybe we want that underlined. Well, select all of this. And up here, you can apply an italic or bold or underline like that. And we can put a box around them if we want, or just leave it like that. So if I go to my actual floor plan, I can pull that note into here and put these notes maybe over here on the side. Again, I don't need a title for notes. Now, how do I show that Note 1 on my plan? Well, I go into this plan. Now, let me show you, there's a couple ways you can get to this plan. From the sheet, you could double click in here, and now you can see I can highlight this. I'm working on the sheet. You can do it that way. I warn you that this can be confusing. in that sometimes, and you double click outside of it to get back to the sheet. Sometimes you will start adding notes here and you won't be in the plan view, you'll be in the sheet view, and then things aren't on the right place. So what I would do is recommend not doing it that way. Either get to your actual Power View either up here, or you can do it from the sheets. Now, sometimes it's easier when you get, 30, 40 plan views, coordinations, lighting, all that. It gets confusing. You may want to just make sure, I want to get to the actual view that's on the sheet. So from Floor Plan Power, you can see we have the floor plan and the legend listed. You can get to those by double clicking here. So that's how I would recommend getting to these plans. So what I want that note 1 to be in here. Now I don't have a symbol for note 1, so I'm just going to use a method that some people use, and they just say note 1. They just spell it out. And I'll put that near the name of this room, note 1. That will refer them back to that sheet. So let me go back to the sheet, Floor Plan Power. It says note 1, and that refers them up here to the keyed note. So that's a way to add notes. The other thing I would like to do is I talked about a lighting fixture schedule or a lighting fixture list. So let's go to our floor plan lighting sheet. Again, we don't want to just start typing on the sheet. We want to create a legend for that. Now, we could create what's called a schedule, and Revit actually has a schedule ability built right into it. You'll see schedules here, and there's some built-in analytical schedules. We can create a light fixture schedule that pulls the data out of the light fixture families, kind of like we pulled data for circuiting, and for our tags, we pulled out the name. You can do that with a schedule. That's a little more complicated. I'm not going to deal with it in this simple project, but just know that that's a nice advanced feature, especially as you get into commercial work, that you'll want to be able to set up schedules that pull the data out of your families. But for today, we are just going to create another legend for a light fixture schedule. And we have an A, which is a surface drum, and the B, which is this sconce, etc. So let's do a couple of those. We're going to go to Legends, New Legend, and we're going to call this Lighting Fixture. You can even call it Luminaire Schedule List. We'll just call it Lighting Fixture List. Go up here, we're going to say A in that and just have a separate text for my description. And some people just do a paragraph list. Some people want a schedule with columns and rows like an Excel spreadsheet. So whatever you like to do, I'm just going to say this is a simplistic lighting list. I'm going to say surface, drum, opal, lens, 1500 lumen, LED, 120 volt. Simple as that. A very, very basic description. And then I can copy this down. I can make this type B, and this can be wall sconce, circular, opal lens, and this guy's only 1000 lumens, LED, 120 volt. I would like to get the wattage in here. We're going to say this is 10 VA, 120 volt, and this guy up here is going to be a 15 VA, 120 volt. Something like that. So that's the idea of how you can do a fixture list. If you want to do a schedule, you can jump into the annotate and start drawing, boxes that has dividing lines in it and vertical lines, and you can just create something like that and do a schedule that way. So a lot of options here, unless you're using the actual schedule, which again is more advanced. Let's go ahead and get a title on this. This is just a list more than a schedule. And there we go. Again, we go back to our sheet, the lighting, floor plan lighting sheet, and let's find that legend and drag it on there. Lighting fixture list. You'll notice that the little boxes get filled in if that view gets dragged onto a sheet. So that's kind of a nice feature. You can turn that on or off. And then let's put our lighting fixture schedule up here, our lighting fixture list. We don't need a title. And there we go. That's just the start of that. So now that you're familiar with residential electrical Revit work, it's time to jump into some commercial work. So this video on the screen right now will show you a similar project, but in a commercial project, multi-story. So take a look at that video and continue on with your Revit mastery. Thanks for watching.